Hi, welcome to this introductory video explaining what is geometry. The word geometry comes from two Greek words, geo and metri. Geo means the earth or anything related to the earth, and metri means measurement. So primarily, geometry means measurement of the earth or anything related to the earth. The subject is so called because the ancient intellectuals used the knowledge of geometry to measure the earth as a whole and various distances on it. They also measured the distances from the earth of different heavenly bodies and the distances between them. The common people of ancient times also used their knowledge of geometry to measure and mark out their fields, to measure and style their houses, to measure and make wheels for their carts and chariots, to measure and produce tools, etc. Now, when we say that the common people and the intellectuals use the knowledge of geometry, the question is, what is this knowledge of geometry? Well, if you look at the pictures, you will see that it is all about different shapes given to things. To understand this better, let us see the basic shapes known to man. And while we are at it, let us guess where from in nature the ancients must have got the idea of each shape from. The simplest shape is a line, and one possible source where the ancients must have got the notion of a line is the straight trunk of a tree. The next simple shape is an angle, two lines join, and the ancients perhaps got the notion of this by simply folding one hand. The third basic shape is a triangle, three lines join, and you only have to look at mountain tops to guess where the ancients could have got the notion from. The fourth shape is four lines join. There can be different shapes with four lines join, which we will study later. Here I have taken only one four-line shape. This is called a rectangle. Also, there can be shapes with 5 lines join, 6 lines join, etc., which too we will study later. And you only have to look at the faces of natural stones to understand how the ancients must have got the idea of 4-sided shapes, 5-sided shapes, etc. The last basic shape is a circle. Now this shape looks different from the others. The other shapes had sides. This one is round, no sides. However, you'll be surprised to know that the circle is actually very many sides made up of tiny lines joined together, such that the final figure appears round. This too we'll be studying later. Anyway, now to guess where the ancients got the idea of a circle from, they must have easily got it from our good old sun. Okay, so now that we have seen the basic shapes, let us see how this knowledge of shapes, that is knowledge of geometry, has been used in each of the situations above. We will start from the fields. We see a line shape in the middle. In fact, every edge is a line, so we won't mark them all, else the whole picture will be full of red marks. Then we see an angle formation below it. In fact, wherever two edges meet, an angle is formed, so again we won't mark them all. Then we can make out a triangle shape at the bottom and a rectangular shape in the middle. We can also see a circular clump of small trees to the back and left. Okay, let's check the shapes in the house. There is one line at the top of the roof. But then, as said before, every edge is a line, so we won't mark them all. There is one angle where the lower left edges of the roof meet. But again, as said before, an angle is formed wherever two edges meet, so we won't mark them all. Just above the front door is a triangle. The front door itself is a rectangle. In fact, every door and window is a rectangle or some 4-sided figure. Lastly, we see a small circular opening just below the roof. Now let's see the wheel. Every spoke is a line. I'll just mark one as an example. Between any two consecutive spokes, there is an angle. Let's mark 1 as an example. There are no triangles in this and also no four-sided figure, but the whole wheel is a circle. Also, the central hub of the wheel is a circle. Let's move down to the tools. The first tool looks like a spearhead. It is based on the triangle shape. The next tool seems a spade. Its handle is a four-sided shape we will study later. The main spade is based on the rectangular concept. The next object seems to be a scythe to cut grass, etc. It is a part of a circle. Let's move to the measurement of the earth. When measuring distances on earth and the heavenly bodies, the line concept is used. But when measuring distances between the heavenly bodies, triangle characteristics have to be used. Lastly, while measuring the earth as a whole, obviously the circle concept is used. Alright, so far we saw the use of geometry, that is the use of knowledge of shapes in outdoor situations. Now what about indoors? Let's take a classroom for example. We'll take a modern situation. Every edge is a line. I am marking 1, the upper edge of the showcase to the left. Wherever two edges meet, there is an angle. I am marking 1 on the book rack. There is a small triangle table below the teacher's desk. There is one more triangle table to the extreme left, too obvious to mark out. The chalkboard is a rectangle. There are very many rectangles. Every desktop, teacher's table, book rack, books, cabinets, photo frames, etc. Can't mark them all. The clock is within a circle shape. Also, on each desk, you will find a circular hole. That is for keeping an ink bottle. I am marking 1. So you see that even indoors, the knowledge of geometry, that is the knowledge of shapes, is used. We will take one more example, a home. Now for this one, I'll leave it to you to pause the video and identify all the lines, angles, rectangles and circle shapes. There is one triangle. See if you can spot it. Okay. Now the purpose of this video was to find out what is geometry. And what we saw is that while the literal meaning of geometry is measurement of the earth or anything related to the earth, in real life, geometry is the knowledge of shapes. Further, geometry is not a random use of shapes. It is the use of shapes as per the characteristics of each shape required for the use. For example, a wheel has to be circle shaped to roll. It cannot be triangular or rectangular. The chalkboard in the classroom had to be rectangular for such a broad classroom. Also, a chalkboard cannot be triangular or circular. Thus, geometry is not just a knowledge of shapes. It is also knowledge of the characteristics of each shape so that shapes can be used correctly. Hence, a full definition of geometry will be geometry is the knowledge of shapes and their characteristics. Now, to summarize and remember what we have learnt in this video. We first saw that the root meaning of geometry is measurement of the earth or anything related to the earth. Then we saw generally how the intellectuals as well as the common people of ancient times used the knowledge of geometry. On observation, we saw that the use of knowledge of geometry was actually the use of shapes. Therefore, we saw the basic shapes known to mankind and also guessed a possible origin of each shape. Next, we saw how the knowledge of different shapes was used specifically in outdoor situations and also in indoor situations. Thus, we concluded that the practical meaning of geometry is the knowledge of shapes. Further, we saw that the use of geometry is the use of shapes, such that the characteristics of the shapes match the use. And thus, we arrive finally at the definition of geometry, as geometry is the knowledge of shapes and their characteristics. Alright, in this video we learned the definition of geometry. In the next video, we will see how geometry from scattered knowledge became a systematic body of knowledge. I'll see you there.